Hashimasu. Coming up from the ground, pressing the ground will pop you up. Then maintaining that, if you felt that pressure of the ground pushing you up, and the more you can relax and release down, the more you'll feel the ground supporting you and motivating you. And then you take that into the standing. And even though we seem to be still and stationary, there's actually a very vibrant kinetic energy still working up from the ground. And eventually you'll feel like it's this vibrant flowing river, or this continuousness, this continuity of pressure, flow, support. And we just kind of hang out in the middle of that stream. And that stream is always there for us if we can align and tune in. So even though it seems like stillness, it's this continuous movement of energy, a stream of energy. It's very alive, vital force and energy that continues to, that's there for our continuous support. And eventually relying more and more on that ground support can literally open us up more and more. If that ground support can be our support to stand, then that same energy, that same support can be a continuous source of buoyancy and openingness. It's like a nourishing spring, continuous spring of life energy. And we can learn to rest in that and be supported by that. At the same time, it's very physical. It's the ground force. Tuning into that support, we can afford to release more, relax more, because we don't need to be holding ourselves in and up, separate from the ground, separate from everything else. We can afford to allow ourselves to release, let go, and that allows us to be more open to more support. So it's a feedback loop. It's a self-generating process once we start to tune into that and continue to work with it. The support allows us to open up more, release more, empty more, which allows more support to enter. And we'll do a little warm up. So from here, and again, once you start to tune into that, you want to take that into everything we do. So even as, for example, I start to do, let's say, hip circles, anything, hip circles, everything's still a process of releasing and opening, releasing and opening, releasing and opening, and then I can have that push my hips. It's like a sailor on the ocean, on a boat. Once I know how to use the sail to move the boat, I can have the wind to move me in any direction I want. I can angle the sail so the wind can blow me forward, back, left, right, any direction I want. So at first, basic idea is to get this in alignment and stillness, or get it in simple movement, simple movement, simple movement, simple movement, in stationary, and eventually I can have that move me in any direction. That's definitely a development of fine and finer and finer inner awareness. And something that's too subtle for most people to tune into Eventually you can start to very tenuously, very feebly start to tune into it. And then it gets clearer and clearer, stronger and stronger, till it becomes as real as a physical limb that you can use. And I can press and release the assembly the other way. Releasing the abdomen. So that imagery, that very well-used phrase of hanging up from a string, is just a simple process of allowing me to relax down instead of holding up. And relaxing down allows things to open up from the ground up. And the knees. Even here, the ground can be accessed to be pushing up through the body to move the knees. It's a continuous opening, releasing, falling, settling. And I'm open enough, the ground pushes back and supports the alignment and supports the movement. And pressing into the ground and have that wave up through the body, send me up. Okay. Into light horse stance, Aiki-Body shape. So again, hanging out from the string. A little more specific is hanging the hips. I hang the hips. And I just have enough strength to avoid falling right down. Hang the hips, hang the hips. And then over time, I can release in the middle of that hanging and have the stretching, open and lengthening of the spine to be the gears to roll the elbows forward. So we're going to take this into cycling it on, off. That's a easier way to approach it. We're breathing out, hanging the hips, stretching the spine, which rolls the elbows forward. Breathing in, coming up, a little bit of a mental and physical break, rest. Breathing out, streaming the knees forward, which pulls the hips down, which pulls and stretches the spine, which rolls the elbows forward. So breathing in is releasing, bit of a rest. Breathing out, hang, stretch, roll the elbows forward. And then more and more, use less and less. More and more, use less muscle. It's just intention and the feeling that it's the gears working, that as you stretch the spine, lengthen the body, there's a connection that will drive the elbows forward for you. So once you've done this a few times, consciously use less and less muscle. And eventually you find more and more of that gear-like connection. So it becomes less and less dense muscular action and more a opening, stretching of the fascia, connective tissue, rather than a contraction of the heavy, dense muscles. It's an opening, lengthening of the finer tissues. The white tissue of the body stretched and opened. So each out breath is another opportunity to hang, stretch, lengthen, and roll those elbows. And of course, rolling the elbows sits the shoulders and opens the shoulder joints. Shoulder joints are the easiest to access as far as joints, having a sense of a joint opening, lengthening, releasing. But that action that's there, once you start to tune into a joint or two in the body that you can open and release, it's actually happening through all the joints. But you can't do everything at first. So it's usually the shoulder joints that are easiest to access. But then you want that process to happen every joint between the vertebrae of the neck, hips, knees, ankles. Once you have a qualitative sense, kinesthetic sense of opening, releasing, stretching, and lengthening without doing it muscularly, then you can transpose that into everywhere, all the joints. You can get that in just one area, one joint of the body. That's how it starts. Okay, now we're going to hang the hips, stretch the spine, roll the elbows to open the shoulder joints, and not come up. We're going to stay there just through normal breathing. So a continual hang and stretch and opening. Continual dropping through the hips. If it wasn't for that string or the tiniest amount of physical effort, you'd fall right to the floor through the hips. The hips will just hit the floor. So you're just before that happens. Now that action of the free falling hips rolls the elbows forward, lengthens the spine, including the neck. Now, if you find that when you feel that moving through the vertebrae of the neck, that drops the chin, like we always talk about mechanically, right? Mechanically and artificially dropping the chin or chin in, you'll find that will happen organically for you. That's just one example of, oh, that's why we're always telling people to drop the chin or pull the chin in a little bit, because that's actually the shape and the structure that happens when you're open and released. So those things that we always do mechanically, artificially, it's really interesting, really neat, really fun when you find that that shape turns on for you. So again, when I lengthen my spine, open the spine, that rotates my head for me into that shape that we talk about doing mechanically. You'll find again, the lower back flattens and fills out organically, automatically for you once you have the sense and the quality, the feeling. So what we talk about doing physically, mechanically, that transforms into that shape for you organically, automatically, naturally. It's like, oh, okay, that's actually what happens when I'm open and lengthening. So hanging out there. Okay, now straight out in front. So palms are facing each other, shoulders down, and we're going to reach out as far as you can forward in front of you, not locking the elbows, of course. Elbows are pointing towards the ground, the shoulders stay down, but you're going to reach out way out in front of you as far as you can. Even if you have to do that somewhat muscularly, and then minimize that. But you're stretching your arms way out in front, like you're going to touch the wall in front of you. Shoulders down, elbows not quite locked. Elbows sitting straight down. Now, once you've reached as far as you can forward, energetically and physically reaching as far as you can forward, from there, roll the elbows forward, down and forward from there. Even though you thought you were reaching as far as you can, you're going to intend to roll the elbows even more forward. Now we're going to do that with the breath as well. Breathe in, kind of come up and release the arms a little bit. Breathe out, hang the hips, roll the elbows forward. Breathe in, release a bit. Breathe out, hang the hips, stretch the spine, roll the elbows forward, more and more forward. Breathe in, release. Okay, now keep it on. So hang out, stretch the spine, roll the elbows forward. Keep it on as you breathe normally. Keep rolling the elbows further and further forward. Further and further and forward. Notice any tension that turns on because of your trying. Try to release that tension. Try to dissolve that tension. Notice when you're turning on some tension in your attempting to reach and stretch, and try to reduce that, release that. and just have it come from attention. Okay, now we're going to cross the wrists. Take a moment to make sure you haven't raised those shoulders. And the same thing, reach as far as you can without locking your elbows. Reach, 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 physically, energetically. And when you think your arms are as long as you can, as long as they can be, roll your elbows forward from there. And we're just going to keep it on steady. Hanging the hips continually, rolling those elbows forward continually. Release the abdomen. Okay, come up a bit, relax, switch over, crossing the other way. Reach out, out, energetically flow out through the arms and fingertips, shoulders down, hang the hips, and arms are as long as they possibly can be, and then physically roll your elbows down and forward. From there, release the abdomen and breathe, rolling the elbows forward. Through lengthening, palms go out to the front a little bit again, Aiki-Body shape, roll the elbows forward. Through lengthening, arms only get longer. The lengthening feeling sends the arms out to the side, so the palms are facing the side walls, shoulders down. Reach out to the side walls as much as you can physically. And once you're reaching as far as you can physically, roll the elbows towards the side walls. Hang the hips, and I'll roll the elbows even more. Hang out and breathe. Through lengthening, the arms come to the front. Palms facing, fingers pointing straight out in front of you. Reach as far as you can physically, as far as you can. Keep the shoulders down as far as you can. Roll the elbows forward from there. Cross the wrists. Take a moment to reach a bit more in case you came in a little bit. Reach out, stretch out, and then roll the elbows forward. Through lengthening the arms even further, they expand out, out to the sides again, getting longer, getting longer, getting longer, moving the arms out. Reach out to the walls, and then push and roll the elbows out to those walls. Release the abdomen, hang the hips. And through lengthening, drives the arms forward. And once you think you're reaching as far as you can physically, roll those elbows forward. Try to release whatever tension you can notice in your body, but only continue your reach and your length. Crossing the wrists. Reach, stretch, and then roll the elbows even more. Release the abdomen, hang the hips. Arms grow even longer, pushing the arms out to just off of straight out in front of you, so not quite to the corners. The Aiki-Body, hang the hips, have that push the elbows, rolling the elbows. Release the abdomen. Coming into Hanmi. Breathe out, hang the hips, roll the elbows forward. Breathe in, can be a bit of a rest. Breathe out, the hips just free fall, stretching the spine long and open. That rolls the elbows forward. Breathe in, low retracement. So perhaps now there's an opening stretching that's more throughout the body, not just the shoulders, not just the spine, opening, but becoming more and more universal throughout the body. Release the abdomen. Switch your feet. Breathing out is hanging the hips, stretching the spine, and that rolls, mechanically rolls the elbows forward. Breathing in, releasing back. Oh, it's very intensive, intentionally speaking. So using the intention very clearly, using less and less muscle, but more and more intention. It should be very intensive. And then breathing in, switching feet, breathing out, sinking. Breathing in is an expanding, breathing out is a hanging, releasing, extending. Breathing in is an opening, expansive. Breathing out is a sinking, hanging, stretching, extending. Breathing in is opening, expanding. Breathing out is heavy, lengthening, sinking, extending. Going at your own breathing and intentional pace. So it's a movement of your mind, movement of your intention through your body. A very clear river of energy, a very clear current of intention, current of intentional flow through your body. That's driving and moving your body, opening the body. Now, just hang out and sync, breathing continuously, and just a continual free fall of the hips, driving the elbows forward. Releasing the abdomen and anywhere else you notice tension accumulating without any releasing back in the stretch. Stretch only increases. Take a deep breath in, expand, switching to the other side, breathe out, and then continual hanging, stretching, opening. Notice any positive changes, the back of the neck, lower back. You might notice things in the feet. Notice the proper changes that occur spontaneously, organically for you. Let the arms hang and swing and gradually be pulled down with gravity. Feet parallel. Just let the arms hang in vertical stillness. And notice the body, notice the shoulders, notice the arms. Sinking your awareness in your body, throughout your body. Knees bent a fair bit, just turning the hips, releasing the abdomen. Again, hanging the hips so your lower back is flat. Let the arms be completely passive. And this movement continues to gently coax the shoulder joints to open and release even more. Training your abdomen to release. Let the abdomen be free to move with your breath. A little wider stance, adding a weight shift and hip turn. Keeping the upper body, your torso very vertical. The vertebrae are hanging, just hanging vertical, opening up the space between the vertebrae. Let those shoulder joints be gently coaxed into opening and lengthening by the pull through the arms. A bit more of a turn, so you go onto the ball of that back foot. But notice if you're leaning at all, you want to come back. Once you have a sense of that vertical hanging, you'll notice very clearly when you're coming off of that vertical hang and that vertical alignment. And then the body will just want to correct back to that verticality. releasing the abdomen. And then one foot in front of the other, arm swing, forward and back. So this is a releasing exercise, releasing movement. We're also not just learning to hang vertically and release, but to, again, use the ground force. Pressing down sends me back. Pressing down the back leg sends me forward. The abdomen can release because I'm hanging out. I'm not standing up. I'm hanging, releasing, just letting the ground work up through me to support me. I just have to align myself and open up to allow that to occur. Other side. And that same relaxed, open, released feeling we'll take into Funakoku Endo. So I have this kind of wave that comes from underneath, comes up, and the wave crashes on the shoreline. That's your hips. The waves crash on the hips, shoreline, comes from underneath, crashes down towards the hips. Just like a rolling ocean wave. An ocean wave is not tight or tense, right? It's completely natural. There's no contraction. It's an energy from within that drives it, an inherent energy from within that wave, within that water, that propagates through it. There's not a contractional aspect to it. So we're not going and not firing here, coming forward. So staying in that relaxed, open, and opening feeling. Flowing out, up, crashing down, totally natural, just like arm swings. Other side. You can use the rhythm of the legs pressing into the ground. Again, the arms are not having to contract and tense. Letting those shoulders open, like you're throwing the hands away, throwing the arms away, that pulls the shoulders open. Coming back is just like gravity working, arm drops. So throwing the arms away, letting arms drop to the hips. And again, throwing the arms away comes from the ground. Comes from the ground to throw the arms away, dropping to the hips is because you're pressing back. And then see if you can keep that quality and feeling as much as you can as you go into the turn. So the timing, you'll have to find that timing so you can stay relaxed, soft, and natural. Basically, hang out vertically, let the ground push you, drive you. Then see if you can be fully connected even through the turn, even through the tenkai. Notice where it becomes empty, disconnected, either disconnected from the ground or disconnected somewhere in the body as you do the turn, and see if you can fill that space, fill that quality with fullness and connection, flowing movement of energy rather than a stop or emptiness in that flowingness of energy. So that's mental awareness, mental work to develop that. And then we'll take this into Minuchi. I don't have to contract my shoulders. They just get longer and longer. The lengthening, just like here, the lengthening is what drove the movement. Just like gears, we make gears connections so that the lengthening process is what moves the arms. So the lengthening is what makes the arms go forward and up and down and back. It's the lengthening that does that. that lengthening is pushed by the ground or the feet. Release the abdomen, hang the spine. So every moment is another opportunity to release and lengthen, and every millimeter of movement is another opportunity to lengthen and open. Hang the hips. The head stays here, you hang the hips. Hang the hips, this stays here, that opens up the spine. Switch the feet. If you imagine your head is in a brace, it's being held here, supported. You just have the hips free fall, have the hips hang. Head is supported. It's just another way of saying the string. The other common way is talking about the string, suspending the head from above or hanging from the string. This is just another imagery, different words to capture the same quality. The head is supported here, it's held and supported. I just drop my hips. That opens up the spine. I can hang with gravity. It opens up my torso, lengthens the spine. And that lengthening, dropping quality can send my arms forward. Keep my arms open. And with the tenkai, the turn, see what you can keep, see what you lose, see if you can get it back by slowing down or increasing your intentional length, your intentional outward flow. Okay, now very related to this whole process, again, a little more subtle, maybe a step further in the internal, a step forward in the energetic, but very much related to this. In fact, a natural progression from this, so slightly more detailed or more energetic or more subtle. Everything we've been doing, exactly the same. I was just mentioning intentional extension, intentional flow, intentional stretch. So my mind is already out and has already set a current. There's already a intentional flow, a river of flow, a current of flow. My arms are being either swept up in that or are catching up to that. So it's not that I'm moving my arms and my mind at the same time. I'm not moving my mind and my arms at the same time. It's as if, like I mentioned before, standing, it seems like nothing's going on. It seems stationary, but there's actually eventually quite a lot of movement internally, energetically. There's a very vibrant, vital movement. So this is almost like it's almost like I'm standing still. And my arms are still. But there's something already going on. There's an intentional flow already occurring. There's something already going on, and my arms are catching up to that or swept up in that, and so my arms are moved. So when you turn, when you make your turn, have a very strong current already occurring, a very strong directional flow already occurring, and your arms go there not because you move your arms there, but because it's already there. It's already flowing. The current is already happening. The current is already flowing. So by the time you turn, your arms are swept up in that. By the time you turn, just before you face the other side, that current is already established. That river is already established, and your arms are just filling in the space that's already moving. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about that or anything we've done so far today. Your intentional flow is already occurring, and your arms are just going into something that's already there and already moving. Now, whether you can connect to that or not, it doesn't really matter because eventually you will. So
Like
these,
Sensei, what might you notice in the change of the movement that says intentions going before the action?
okay,
Because one thing I notice is that all of a sudden it gets like 20% easier.
yeah,
Minimum.
okay. So I'm glad that you asked that and then answered that, because my answer was going to be, that's a great question for me to not answer, because then you will find it purely. So you're finding that. So you're finding it. You're discovering it. It's revealing itself to you. This is the beautiful process. And so when you find something like that, especially if again you really get into that discovery, get inside that experience discovery, it's quite a pleasant experience. It's a beautiful thing. So whatever you notice, because there's a number of things you might notice. It's a number of things you might notice, and that's certainly one, because you're noticing it. So really appreciate, enjoy, revel in what's happening right now, the process, whatever little process seems to be spontaneously occurring right now. Sink into that, dwell with that. That's the meditation, that's the study, that's the internal experience unfolding out of you. So continue to enjoy that, experience that, and stay open, keep the mind open, because there will be more. Maybe not today, but there's always other slight different aspects of that. And that's certainly a very strong one of the qualities you will experience, because you are experiencing it now. One other thing I will mention is, and this will happen spontaneously as well, but it can be also something that you can think about intellectually, think about and try to turn on a little bit, and will add to the quality. But again, it's one of those things, like I said before, oh, my neck is just straightened and stretched for me. My lower back is straightened and stretched for me. It'll happen for you. But I will mention this. If I release my hara, my abdomen, it just makes everything clearer and stronger. The intentional outflow just gets bigger and stronger. My arms are pushed out even more than they were before. Now, actually, that opening, releasing of the hara happened for me. But it's something that I was willing to mention. And if you consciously allow that to occur, notice the changes that ensue. Notice what are the effects of releasing the abdomen, allowing the hara or the abdomen to expand and open. Notice any subsequent effects. Okay, so let's just do a little bit of sayuendo, and we'll do it slow as an opening exercise, internal opening exercise.